Hi guys, it's James here at Full Fat 4x4. Today I'm going to talk about Jaguar's latest rebrand and maybe try and defend it, so we'll see how that goes. Obviously talk about the latest L322s in stock and what is going on, and also announce the next giveaway, so stay tuned and enjoy. Just before I go into the update section of this video, I just want to say Full Fat 4x4 is always looking for L322s. So if you're thinking about selling yours, particularly if it's a 4.4 TDV8, please do get in touch. So it's Sunday the 1st of December. Most important thing then, Christmas tree. That's going to be going up soon. Okay, on to L322 updates. So I finally got round to getting the Full Fat 4x4's cheapest L322 into the garage, which is a step in the right direction. So you may recall on the previous video I said that it had a coolant leak. Now I think that the coolant leak is coming somewhere from around about here, and I'm hoping it's just going to be a hose. Pull a few bits off, find the hose that's split, replace it, and then we should be laughing. I hope. Fingers crossed. But it's never that simple really, is it, on Land Rovers? So who knows what it could be, but stay tuned. At least it's made it into the garage. There are a few cars ahead of it on the prep list, including the 62 plate autobiography with 100,000 miles on it. So that isn't on the drive at the moment. That has gone to Car Body in Banbury for some paint touch-up. So I think that car is going to be quite a transformation compared to when it came in. So it's had a lot of mechanical work, oil cooler, rear bushers, engine service, a few other bits and pieces, along with a really good clean, and then paint touch-up. Oh yes, wheel refurb. So yeah, by the time that is back from paint, I think that's going to be a completely transformed car, which is pretty cool. So yeah, I really like those kind of projects because you really feel like you've kind of, got into the nuts and bolts of a car and added a lot of value. So yeah, it's quite hard work, but quite rewarding. So yeah, stay tuned for that one. That will be coming back soon. In terms of latest arrivals, we have this 12 plate Westminster. So this is in Santorini black with an ivory interior. Needs a few things like mirror cover, but it is in pretty good condition. Obviously it is quite dirty. This arrived, I think it was Thursday that it arrived, so not even had a chance to take it down to the valet. That's being done on Monday. 85,000 miles on the clock, lots of history, which is really good, and generally in pretty good condition. Definitely needs a wheel refurb. And on the, I think the last MOT history, it was saying something about rusty subframe, so need to get under there and have a good look at that, make sure it's just surface rust and not anything too critical, but yeah, in pretty good condition. So I've not driven this one yet, so I'm going to take you guys out for a drive in it, just see how it drives, see what it, on the face of it, what it needs. I know that the previous MOT said something about an oil leak, so usual suspect is oil cooler. So we'll get the engine cover off at some point, investigate, and we'll go from there. So yeah, I think we'll just go for a quick drive in this one just before the light completely fades. Okay, so this is the first time I've driven this one. This one has actually come in from auction, so it's always quite sort of both exciting and nerve-wracking when you buy something sight unseen from auction, because it can either be, a real disaster, or it can be quite a nice car. Now, I think first impressions, I think this is going to be quite a nice car. So it always bodes well when there is a large quantity of service history, which this does have, and it's predominantly with the same garage, which is also really good. So there's a nice bunch of invoices available to see, and there's lots of preventative work which has been done on it, which is obviously really good, what we like to see. But you don't necessarily know that when you're buying it through auction, so it's a bit of a lottery, which is why I would not necessarily recommend a private buyer going down the, certainly the trade auction route, because there's some, there's some real dogs out there. But yeah, this seems to drive quite nicely. I noticed that in the history, it's recently had track control arms, which is good. So it seems to drive quite straight and true. And apart from the wing mirror cover, I've noticed that the Parking sensors aren't working. I plugged in the diagnostics and it was pointing to the rear parking loom. So we'll have to get one of those on order. Not too difficult to sort out, but it's just sort of rear bumper off, replace the loom. But that fix is cheaper than the parking module going, so that's quite common. Normally when the parking sensors on one of these isn't working, it is either the module in the rear left-hand corner of the car or a wiring loom issue. So I suspect this is a wiring loom issue, which is cheaper but more hassle to fix. So yeah, it seems to drive quite nicely. What else can I tell you? So the plan for this one, it's being valeted tomorrow, so that'll be Monday the 2nd, I think. So we'll get it looking tidy. Interior needs just a really good clean. I mean, everything that comes into me seems to need a really good clean. I mean, it's used cars, isn't it? So, you know, people live in their cars, and I know that I'm quite bad in my own personal car. It does become a bit of a mess after a while. So yeah, good clean inside. We'll do a wash on the outside. Probably won't go to town on it initially until we've done the rest of the prep. It also wants alloy wheel refurb. So these are the original diamond coated, or diamond turned, I should say, wheels. So basically what that means is they're sprayed and then basically put on a big CNC lathe, and then there's a sort of blade that just takes off the top layer of paint and leaves a really nice sort of shiny aluminium finish. And they look great when they're first done, and then that is sort of sprayed with lacquer. But over time, the lacquer peels away and they just look really gnarly. So when I'm having alloy wheels refurbed, I don't tend to go in for a diamond turn finish, just because it's quite a lot more expensive to do, and it just doesn't last as well. So it's just not worth doing. I tend to go in for either just a solid silver, which is like a really classic, or we go in for shadow chrome, which I think I'm going to do with this. And so basically what that means is that the barrel of the wheel will be sort of black or anthracite, and then it'll have a silver front, and it kind of looks a little bit like it's been diamond turned, but is actually fully powder coated and is a lot more durable. So yeah, I'm hoping that this isn't going to give me a huge prep list to do, because I feel like the last couple of cars, you know, the autobiography grey one, real transformation that, you know, but it's had oil cooler, it's had some rear bushers, wheels, paint. It feels like it's had quite a lot done to it now, which, you know, is great to do because it means it's sort of, you know, re-lifing the cars, but it just does take some time. So, but it's like inevitable, I think. As soon as I start digging into this, I'll find other things that I'll need to get sorted. So that is used cars for you. But yeah, so far, I think quite pleased with this purchase. Drives nicely. I've not had a Santorini black and ivory color combination in for a while, and that is partly, I guess, by design. I've not really been looking for them, but I did have a customer reach out to me the other day and say, oh, I really liked the Bourneville car. I liked how black it was. Could you find me something similar? So this could be, you know, by the time I've finished the prep, this will hopefully be to a same level as that Bourneville car. But it is a Westminster, not an autobiography. So you have got that sort of compromise, but it will be a bit cheaper. I am thinking this one is going to be about 15.5 to 16, just depending on the prep and sort of how much we go to town on the paintwork and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, good. I think this is a nice car and will certainly be a solid purchase for someone. In terms of what else we have in stock, so you probably noticed on the driveway earlier, is the Bronze Vogue SE. So I'm currently running that now as a sort of winter run around. I used it today to help a farmer friend feed some sheep, so it's looking quite muddy, but that's driving really nicely. And interestingly, I think that car actually has a locking rear diff, because I was fiddling around with the special functions, put it in the mud and snow one or whatever it is, and the rear diff started to sort of show the locking symbol. So that's quite an unusual option on these cars, and not very common. So so that's pretty cool. And then in terms of what else is in stock, on Monday, so that's the 2nd, I have a grey Westminster arriving. That has 83,000 miles on the clock, full history, and quite unusual. Most of it is actually on the Land Rover OSH system, so online service history, which does happen for L322s, but they tend to be the, just get that on there, tend to be the sort of later, 62 plate onwards, because that was when OSH was introduced. So yeah, that's quite nice to see, and it is pretty comprehensive. So yeah, that's coming in on Monday. We'll feature that on the next video. So next up, I think it's time to have a quick talk about Jaguar. So Jaguar, well, I don't know about you, but up until quite recently, I always used to aspire to Jaguar ownership. I sort of think back to my childhood looking at cars like the XK. A cousin of mine had an XK and it was just the most awesome thing ever. The XJ, which was just immortalized by Bricktop in Snatch. E-types, D-types, C-types, all these really good looking, cool cars, XJS. As a kid, sort of early teens, late teens, I sort of really aspired to Jaguar ownership. And well, I suppose I still did up until about a couple of weeks ago when that sort of horrendous advert was released online. Now, my first response to that was probably a bit like everyone else's. What on earth is Jaguar doing? It was just the most hideous thing I'd ever seen. But I suppose I've reflected on that, and I actually think there could be some intelligence in that. So I'll share my thoughts on that when I go for a drive in my wife's latest company car. It is a Jaguar I-Pace in Carpathian grey. Now, I have to say, we are extremely fortunate to benefit from company cars. And this, to those of you who don't know, the Jaguar I-Pace has been discontinued. And this was just it was a phenomenal offer on the company car scheme. I think it's costing something like £50 a month, including the dreaded company car tax. So in a sort of sea of otherwise bland, dull, boring electric vehicles, this at least represented something that on the face of it seemed interesting and different and a little bit luxurious. So hence why we've opted to go for one. Well, that was, of course, before the Jaguar advert. So I'm going to go for a little drive in this. I'm going to take you along with me. I'm going to share my thoughts. Okay, so first impressions. This is a very nice place to be. It's a really high quality cabin, and it's the sort of thing that you would expect from Jaguar Land Rover. This was I think a £75,000 car, new list price. So you would expect the interior to be pretty premium, and it is. It definitely feels really nice. It's just a quantum league ahead of I guess you think about the best-selling electric car in the UK, and that's going to be Tesla, probably the Model 3 and the Model Y. And when you compare this Jaguar to both the Model 3 and the Model Y, just in terms of interior quality, well, there's just no comparison. It beats the Tesla hands down in terms of, the cabin, the sort of, I guess, how would you call it, the noise in the cabin. It really is much better. So that's first impressions. I think it's quite important, actually. The question that I answer next is why Jaguar? Okay, so it's a really good question, and this is probably going to sound a little bit daft, but as I kind of mentioned, the company car list that my wife and I could choose from did have just a lot of really quite dull cars on, and the company policy is that they have to be electric. So the sort of offerings were just all a bit much of a muchness, and nothing seemed to really stand out and grab either of us. We did have a go with a Hyundai Kona, which represented the absolute budget option, but whilst it was fine, it was very much like a sort of a one-for-one equivalent to that Ford Kuga, which broke and we've now got rid of, thankfully. Just in terms of size and shape and style and class, it was very much a one-for-one. But interestingly, the thing that drove us both absolutely mad with that car was the driver assists. Now, I know that they are mandatory regulation from 2024 onwards. All vehicles have to have that fitted. And I think the best feature about this Jaguar has got to be this button here. So I press that twice. That sets it into custom mode for driver assist, and it turns off all the, driver assist features like speed warning and just all that, electronic committee stuff that nobody wanted, nobody asked for, and yet has been forced on us. So great button, that probably the best feature of the car so far, and was definitely a sort of deciding factor in why we went for this over, something Japanese, something Lexus, something Hyundai, Toyota, whatever. So yeah. But to the main reason, I am actually a big believer in supporting UK and European jobs. And I say UK and European because those who will know that the I-Pace was actually built in Austria in the, I think it's Magna Sittner plant. So Magna Sittner do sort of contract build for various different automakers. So they've built a few different cars there. But, okay, it's not just UK jobs, there's UK and European jobs. I am a big believer in supporting those. And, it saddens me that we have industrial policy in the UK which doesn't promote, manufacturing, for example, through really high energy costs. So, yes, I am a big believer in supporting UK jobs, and I think that was the primary reason why I picked this Jaguar. Which leads me on to the rebrand. Now, the rebrand, when I first saw it, I think probably, well, first of all, if you've not seen it, Google Jaguar advert, you can check it out for yourself. I think it's pretty hideous, and I certainly thought that when it first came out. However, on reflection, I do actually think there could be a stroke of genius that Jaguar have conjured with this new advertising campaign. And the reason I say that is that after 3 or 4 days sort of thinking about it and thinking about the Jaguar brand, when I was a kid, I aspired to things like having an XK and an XJ to complete the sort of the brick top look. And those were very cool cars. Now, what was cool about them? Well, they had 4-litre V8 petrol engines. I mean, what's not cool about a 4-litre V8 petrol engine? So those were very much sort of bucket list cars, which I wanted to own. Now, fast forward a few years and the landscape, the automotive landscape has changed, hasn't it? We no longer see big displacement V8 engines. I think almost gone are the days of cool cars, unless they're sort of, how would you say, some of these niche manufacturers, Aston Martin, Lamborghini, some of the things from Ferrari, but those are unattainable. I look at the offerings today and it's almost like the everyman V8 doesn't exist anymore. What I would certainly be interested to hear from you in the comments below. If you were buying a new car tomorrow and it was going to be a V8, what could you buy? What could every man buy? What could your average Joe buy that was a V8 in today's market? I would definitely be interested in your thoughts. And the reason for that, of course, is emissions legislation. So the EU and then also UK emissions legislation, which has just sort of followed what the EU was doing for many years, basically moved us to smaller and smaller and smaller engines, more emissions control technology, which is what you see on the newer Range Rovers with the Euro 6 and Euro 5 and all this kind of good stuff. And it was the same for the petrols and this sort of drive for efficiency, which in principle is all very well and good, but I do think it has somewhat killed the Jaguar brand. And I think that the Jaguar, well, if you think about it like the family cat, I suspect that Jaguar as a brand was actually dying quite some time ago. And then this final advert is almost like it's been euthanized as a brand. And then the question that remains is, will Jaguar pull a sort of phoenix trick, and will it, arise from the ashes of this sort of brand euthanization? I don't know, I'm not sure. But if I look at the sort of Jaguar lineup, well, pre the announcements that they were going to stop manufacturing ICE cars, it was all very boring, really. You know, they had the XE and the XF, which were basically 3 Series and 5 Series competitors. Well, I kind of get the feeling that someone in a boardroom somewhere in Jaguar basically looked at what the Germans were doing, you know, looked at what BMW, looked at what Audi were doing and thought, ah, yes, we'll copy that, which, you know, copying isn't a great strategy. And, you know, I think it is interesting that at least in their rebrand, they have acknowledged that and said, you know, copy nothing. So, yeah, I mean, you know, you take the sort of wokey-cokiness out of the advert, and I do genuinely hope that Jaguar do immerse, or, you know, they rise from the ashes and become, you know, a desirable brand again. And I think that, you know, it could happen, because if you think about Jaguar of old, it was always about cutting edge. It was always about sort of pushing the limits of petrol engine performance and all that kind of good stuff. And I suppose now there could be a bit of an opportunity to go back to those roots. However, again, I think that they have made a bit of an error, because if you look at the I-Pace, which is what I'm in now, this car almost seems like it was all things to all people. So the 0 to 60 is, you know, is very quick. It seats 5 in comfort. It has a big boot. It's all-wheel drive. It's got good ground clearance. So it's trying to be both an SUV and a sedan and a hatchback and a performance saloon and a, you know, performance sports car. It's trying to be everything for everyone. And I think what that means is that, you know, fundamentally this car is compromised. And I think it shows it most in the ride. And I think the biggest problem with this Jaguar I-Pace is it's not a Range Rover. I know that might sound a bit daft, but when you think about how much this car new cost in 2018, you could have got yourself into certainly a base spec Range Rover at the time. And when you think that that would have had air suspension, you know, it's a nice high riding car, much more comfortable. I just think that, you know, it would have been a no-brainer. And that then kind of leads me on to the next point about Jaguar. I do think that they have been confused as a brand for a very long time, because their lineup has been competing with Land Rover, and it's ridiculous. You know, you think about the F-Pace, I think there was an E-Pace, you know, small SUVs competing with the Velar and the Evoque. You know, it was just ridiculous. You'd go into a JLR dealership and there would be, you know, what, 20 models to choose from or something daft like that. So I do think that it was a very confused brand. And I think that their strategy could at least be successful, given that it seems that they are now going to focus just on like that one luxury Grand Tourer. So best of luck to them. I really hope it becomes a success story. And I look forward to seeing what comes out of Jaguar. But yeah, I do think that perhaps the marketing team might need to have a good look at themselves in the mirror. But good luck to them. So I'm probably not going to go into too much detail on this I-Pace, because there's plenty of videos on YouTube which do a review of it. I'll probably share my thoughts in a month or so when we've lived with it for a bit longer. But what I will say is, unsurprisingly, it's a massive improvement over the Ford that we got rid of. And we're obviously very grateful to never have to see that car again, because it was pretty terrible. Okay, guys, well, that is all in terms of the cars today. So I'm going to cut back to the workshop and going to talk about the next giveaway. So I want to say a big thank you to George, who just sent me a video having recently won the Topdon Jump Surge giveaway competition. So George, thank you so much for your video. We'll quickly cut to that.
Hi James, so surprised when you sent me the notification that I'd won the Topdon from your competition. So thank you very much for sending it, and keep up the good content.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, and I know you sort of text me saying that you're not as professional or whatever, but no, I think that was really good, and it's great to see you on the back of your L322, so hope you're enjoying that. So the next giveaway is going to be a Topdon product again, and it is the Topdon Topscan, which is an OBD onboard diagnostic tool which you plug in, and it links to an app via Bluetooth. So I've been very kindly given one of these by the good people at Topdon. So I am yet to actually try it out in a vengeance, so I will be doing so and letting you know my thoughts. But if you want to win this, then please put Topscan in the comments below, and I will announce the winner in the next couple of weeks. Okay guys, that's all for today then. So thank you very much for watching as always. Please like, subscribe, it really does help the channel. So yeah, thank you very much.